I would keep
That was you.
Yeah. All you.
All right. Beginning of every week, you get one of these things from me, which here we have a weekly syllabus. I think Mrs. Perry, Mrs. Palmieri did a similar thing. I don't do a notebook check halfway through the semester where you need to show me that you still have all the weekly syllabi and things like that. But the expectation is, I expect that you know what's going on. So you can certainly keep this one and put it within the front of a notebook. You getting a 3-ring binder would be pretty key because this Stanzo, though, I don't know her new married name. Stanza's new married name. What is it? I'm never going to remember that.
Yeah,
It's going to throw me
that
off.
sounds like macaroni.
Her and I are in a killing tree competition, and I try to kill more than she does. But we recycle, so that'll help. But you're going to get a lot of stuff coming from me. So notebooks certainly would be a way to go keep it organized. I do try to let you know in advance what you need and when you need it. You have a textbook, the Bedford Reader. That is our year-long textbook because we have to have a year-long textbook. I don't need to see that till Friday. Because Friday you have a reading assignment in it, which we'll go over. We're probably going to use the Bedford Reader a total of maybe like 10 or 11 days this year. So there's no reason for Noah to come with it every single day, unless he's trying to impress me. But it won't work. Grapes of Wrath, if you don't have it with you today, it's okay, but bring it tomorrow and probably the remainder of the week, at least Thursday, because we'll be doing some stuff with it. So the weekly syllabus helps keep you kind of understanding what's going on. I also put down at the bottom, and I do a lot right now at the beginning of year, upcoming dates, so you kind of have an idea as to what's going on. So for example, and we'll certainly talk about this week, but take note, a week from today, on the 29th, you're going to get an introduction to Joseph Conrad in our next book, Heart of Darkness. If you're still catching up on the Grapes of Wrath, next week's going to be miserable while you're working on an essay and trying to read another book. So make sure anything you need to do with the Grapes of Wrath you take care of this week, so come Monday of next week, you're ready to kind of shift gears and go in another direction. If you're out for any number of days, I would expect you're not going to come in and ask, what did we do? But you'll come in and go, okay, what did we learn about prompt number 1 of the Grapes of Wrath? Because you certainly know what we already covered within the class. Up at the top, there's contact information, have an email address. I purposely made it a Gmail. Most of your emails are going to be Gmail addresses because of your student Gmail. Gmail to Gmail tends to communicate a little bit better, if you're sharing any kind of documents or stuff like that. I do have the generic district, KJ@nhsd.net. You can use it, but sometimes spam filters and emails don't quite communicate quite as well. Another thing that might be of use for you, there's a tiny URL address that you see under the Gmail. It's a calendar. It's online. It's kind of like an electric copy of a weekly syllabus. I would recommend it because, again, if you are out, copies of handouts, your course syllabus, your weekly syllabus are already uploaded there for today. Reading assignments are posted. There's links to things in case you have lost it. So it certainly can kind of help manage everything. And some of you are more inclined to look at the screen than the sheet of paper. So again, whichever one works best for you is what you would want to kind of tackle. So far as what's going on for this week, notice that under today, it does mention that you have a reading assignment. Chapter 5, Grapes of Wrath. I'm pretty sure you already read Chapter 5, but I want you to read it again. We're going to have a quiz for Chapter 5 on Wednesday. So between now and Wednesday, I want you to reread Chapter 5. It's about 12 pages. It's one of the expository chapters. It's when the tractors are kind of going over the land. It's not the turtle chapter, so you don't have to worry about that. There aren't any Jodes involved in this one. It's just one of the expository ones. For Wednesday, if you want, you can bring in 1 page of handwritten notes. It could be 1 page front and back. You cannot use the book. They have to be handwritten. JT is not going to copy and paste the whole entire chapter, switch it to 2-point font, and put it on 1 sheet of paper, single space. If he rewrites the whole chapter on 1 sheet of paper, I will be impressed. But he probably won't have enough time to really read it all and also do the quiz at the same time. It's a 20-point quiz. It's going to be 20 multiple choice questions, 1 point apiece, all dealing with just chapter 5. Okay.
So you don't have to bring notes. You're not losing points if you don't use notes. You're not gaining bonus points if you do well on the quiz without the notes. But if you feel better bringing a copy of handwritten notes, go for it. The obvious follow-up question is, what should my notes be about? Chapter 5. Whatever you want to include. Okay? Dog pees on tires of car. You know, could be something. You want to describe the sandwich that the guy's eating. That's fine. Make whatever you feel is going to be helpful for you. Okay? So that's going to be for Wednesday. Tomorrow, we're going to take a look at your first essay assignment for the Grapes of Wrath, prompt number 1. I hope that causes a question. Cody, what is it?
Nothing.
No? Any questions about prompt number 1? Okay, you guys are good. For Friday, then within your Bedford Reader, I need you to read I Have a Dream. I gave you the page numbers at 625 to 629 within the Bedford Reader. You can tell we don't go in chronological order. I'm not planning on having a quiz for it. I just need you to read it so we're good to go on Friday to discuss and talk about it. Okay. Then, as I mentioned, down towards the bottom, I give you some upcoming dates. Again, not always this extensive, but you can see next Wednesday, we're going to have our first draft for the Grapes of Wrath in class. The following Friday, on September the 9th, we're going to have Grapes of Wrath prompt number 2 ready to go, and then you're going to turn in both of those essays on September the 15th, the day before you take your test on Heart of Darkness. Okay. No questions yet. Because if I'm sitting there, I got a serious
I
question.
don't know where to start with the questions.
We'll start somewhere.
Are we gonna? I don't even know where to start. What is SPA and DIDLS?
Diddles. We'll talk about that tomorrow.
What types of prompts are?
That's a really good question. I was hoping somebody would ask it. I'll show you in a minute. All right, so what you are going to be writing about, that's going to be a concern. Good news is you already have it, you just don't realize it. But we'll take a look at that here in a minute. In your actual syllabus, this would be the big packet thing that you have. I refer to it as the holy grail of AP English Language and Composition. Don't lose it. Can't whole bunch of them. Tried. Didn't work. And you can.
Could you like have
Is it
them
too
after?
thick?
Yeah, no, not easily. On page 25, part of the reason why the thing is so lengthy is the last 10 or 11 pages are AP literary terms. So starting on 25, you got a bunch of vocab running in alphabetical order. I'm not expecting that you memorize and know them all for tomorrow or anything like that. In 7 or 8 weeks' time, I'll start giving you quizzes on the literary terms, and I'll remind you in advance about a week. It's not going to be a pop quiz. I'll probably even give you 2 weeks' notice. But when I go quiz number 1, allegory through antithesis, there is going to be that person in class who goes, what are the other words and what are the definitions? And that's when you feel better and prepared because you're going to look on page 25 and go, hey, it's allegory through antithesis. How about that? So this is kind of like a glossary of stuff for the class. A lot of these things you already know. I mean, imagery and simile and puns and that kind of stuff you're already familiar with. Some of them you have no idea what they are or how to say them. And if you ever want to tick me off, refer to the last one as antithesis. That's not a good thing. But, yes. For the first page, a couple things I did want to make sure you're aware of. We got course description, all of that kind of stuff. Down at the bottom are the grading procedures, and the grades themselves aren't any different, than any other classes. And 80% still a B minus, whether you're in, Mrs. Burns Honors American Lit or this class or pottery. Do note it's an AP class, so it's weighted a little bit different. I think you get 0.6 added, so a 4.0 is now a 4.6. I don't know what a B plus is. 3.8, maybe a 4.4. I don't know. A 0 is still a 0, so you don't get 0.6 just for showing up. But these are weighted. I also weight your grade based on assignment types, which might be a little different. I bet science teachers probably also do it for you if you have like labs and things like that. All of your essays make up 50% of your grade. All of your quizzes make up 35%. all of your homework or little participation assignments make up 15%. So what that means, and I certainly wouldn't do it this way, but theoretically, I give you a 100-point assignment tonight, homework assignment, and you complete it. You would have a 100 out of 100, which Angelina would be a, what percent? A 100%. I then give you a 2-point essay assignment. You get a 0 out of 2. You have totaled a 100 out of 102 points, which I don't know what the percentage would be, but it would be like a 98.6 or something like that. In this class, what would the percentage be? Be a 50%. Because you haven't done the essay, all your essays make up 50%, so you can't go above 50. So if Andy never does an essay assignment, his grade will not go above a 50%. If Andy does all of the essay assignments but refuses to do anything else, his grade will never go above a 50%. Now, those situations generally don't happen, but just so you can understand, a little bit more weight, emphasis does go on the essays. The issue that you'll have with it is early on, your grades are going to be all over the place because the first essay, the first quiz carries a lot of weight. On Wednesday, you have a quiz. So that one quiz will be 35% of your grade until we have another quiz later on. So things do even out, but just understand that it takes a little while for everything to kind of settle down and get into its norm, area. All right. Still don't know where to start.
Nah, I have a general idea.
The best thing that you can do, and I'm not making fun of you, but if you are confused on something, this is probably going to start happening tomorrow. You said about SPA and DIDLS and all that kind of stuff. If you get confused or lost, you raise your hand, you ask the question. And if you want to do it after class, that's fine. But the worst thing when you don't know is not to even bother with it. Angelina, you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. As you go through then the first few pages, it's stuff that you're seen or already familiar with, reading list. And slightly different from the one that I gave you last year when we bonded in Mrs. Perry and Mrs. Palmieri's class, but not a whole lot of changes. If you lost your summer reading handout, there's another copy of it for your use. Classroom procedures and policies, most of this stuff is normal. The one thing that I would want to draw your attention to, so I'm on page number 4, homework and papers. Homework and papers number 4, you see that electronic copies of all take-home papers are due by 11:59 p.m. And you're going to submit them to turnitin.com. I get really, I'm going to say angry. I get annoyed during homeroom when 70 people descend on me and within a 3-minute span all want passes to the library to print out an essay. So to make me happy, which will in turn make your day less miserable, you're not going to ask me for library passes to print out essays because you're just going to submit them online through turnitin.com. So that means that I do not collect them from you at the beginning or the end of the 5th period. You can submit them the day before, you can submit them 2 days before, you can submit them at 11:59 p.m. if you want, and it will still be considered on time. So it kind of makes things a little bit easier that way. So you like it that it gives you a little bit more flexibility. I like it because it makes my life easier. I also then grade them online. So I don't print them out and grade them, but I just grade them through the computer. If you don't know your turnitin.com username and password, we'll take care of it when that time comes. People like the grading because you don't have to read my handwriting because it's just all typed up. So that makes it a little bit easier to follow and understand. Certainly it also checks for plagiarism, which I don't expect to be an issue, and I hope it's not an issue. But generally it gives me a way of just kind of collecting all your essays and you getting feedback, I think, in a simpler way than other ways. Now this is for final copies. For Grapes of Wrath, our first 2 drafts are in-class drafts. So next Wednesday, you're not doing a turnitin.com, you are coming to 5th period with a printed out copy. So I guess I might get slightly annoyed on Wednesday if people have to ask for passes, but it's better to ask for the pass than trying not to annoy me. So Hannah, ask me for a pass if you need it. Okay. But majority of your essays after these first couple weeks, you're just going to be submitting them online. Certainly, yes, there are some issues that do sometimes creep up with that, with network connectivity and whatnot. But we'll handle that when we get there. All right. On page number, I've got page number 7 now. There we go. I deleted a page. How about that? That's impressive. On my blank page, you have a thing that says course schedule. I'm not sure what happened to mine. We're going to bring it back. Course schedule basically is giving you a rundown of what we do this year. It's not the 10 Commandments. It is not set in stone. It means changes certainly can occur from time to time. But it gives you an idea as to what we are doing throughout the course of the year. Now, is there any information that you see on that first page that might be helpful when it comes to what's happening for Wednesday of this week and Friday of next week? Did we find it? JT, what'd you find, since I'm getting blank stares from people? Okay, yep, there's reference to soapstones and diddles and spa. And I don't expect that Noah now is going to go, ooh, I got it all. I completely understand it. But at least you know what they mean, which is going to be a little bit helpful. If you go underneath there also, you see an application in writing. So I give you an idea of what we're going to be taking a look at. I have a dream speech. We're also going to be looking at Steinbeck. And what do you got there? Number 1 and number 2. You have 2 prompts, okay? So for Wednesday of next week, you're going to bring in a draft for prompt number 1. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about prompt number 1. So when I go, let's take a look at prompt number 1, and Evan has the confused look on his face, you'll see that Andy has it open to page 6, and goes, oh, that's right, and we'll look at it. So for tomorrow, it's not necessarily a homework collection assignment, but I want you to take a look at number 1, and outside of time, interest, what's keeping you from writing that essay right now? What is keeping you from not being able to complete that task? So tomorrow you might go, I'm still confused on this whole, what do you mean by diction and details and syntax and whatnot. Those are things that we'll take care of tomorrow when we're trying to explain it. But prompt number 1 is going to be this one, in a carefully argued essay, analyze at least 3 rhetorical devices, diction, imagery, details, figurative language, and syntax, to name a few, used by Steinbeck to convey his attitude toward the effect or effects of the Dust Bowl and the migrant people. That's the first one. And then prompt number 2 is down here. Now, it's important to note, this is about the whole entire novel. This is not a chapter 5 only thing. So we're rereading chapter 5, and we'll use chapter 5 kind of as a basis so you can start to see how it works, but you're going to apply it to the whole entire book. So if either Amanda turns in an essay that's only chapter 5, it's not going to get a good score because you're not looking at the whole scope of the book. All right. At the same time, understand you're not turning in a 600-page essay covering 600 pages of the book. That's certainly not going to be in your best interest or mine. So we'll talk about where that happy medium is going to end up being. It will be on the single-digit side. Number 2, then we'll take a look at next week. So if JT goes, hey, I got a question about what you mean criticize American culture, we're not handling that tomorrow because that's beyond the scope that we really need to look at this point. Okay? Any questions? So as you go through the course schedule, you'll then see other essay assignments and applications in writing. On the next page, I guess it'll be on the following one, where we have Heart of Darkness coming in, you're going to see what the essay assignment is going to be for Heart of Darkness. There we go. We got 2 of them. So you know that we'll be taking a look at the March of Civilization and things like that. Once you start reading, you have a better idea as to what we're going to be looking at within the course of the book. So when you start something, you got a better idea as to what the end game is ultimately going to be. Okay? So it is not meant, therefore, to be a 35-page in-your-face, oh my God, this is going to be horrible syllabus, but it's meant to be more of kind of like an accessory, another textbook guide to try to help you through the course. So again, that's part of the reason why it's ultimately so lengthy. All right? If you close your syllabus and you just open it to where it naturally opens, like where the staples are, you see the writing scale. This is the page that you probably turn to the most, which is why I put it in the middle just for you. It just happened that way, but it really seemed impressive. Last year, I believe Mrs. Perry and Mrs. Palmieri kind of talked to you about the AP scale a little bit. 9s, 8s, 7s, 6s, and all that kind of stuff. And certainly, we're going to be going into a little bit more detail about it this year, quite a lot of detail. since all of your essays, or the vast majority, I'm going to score on this scale. So when you get your first take-home final copy essay back, and you go to turnitin.com and you see a 6, you're going to have a mental breakdown. I got a 6%. It's terrible. You didn't get a 6%, Dylan. You probably got an 82%. Okay, because I took that AP scale and then I converted so you can see it into Power School. We're going to say progress book like 50 times this year before we remember it's a different grade book. So the number that you see on the paper will probably be different from the number that you see in the grade book because I'm converting it. So I put in bold the 8, the 6, the 4, the 2 because those are the main scores. So if it's an effective essay, Cody's essay is ultimately effective, not us. Still got 10 minutes. I'm grown. You go, oh, good, I'm happy. If it's an effective essay, it has to be at least a 94%. Actually, 92. I gave myself some wiggle room. If I read this and go, this is adequate, which is a terrible word, but it's an AP word, you know it's going to be a 6. If it's inadequate, now it becomes a 4. Little success, a 2. And so we'll talk about those things, but the hope is that you start noticing the differences between 6s and 7s and 7s and 8s and whatnot from an AP exam standpoint, rather than worrying about an 84, an 82, a 92, all that kind of stuff. So we'll talk about that some more, but the majority of your writing assignments, essays, are going to be on that scale. Okay. Also, there's always a concern, what do you want me to write? So I gave you an essay outline to try to help you. I kind of refer to this as like the training wheel portion of the course. You're intelligent people. You know how to write, or you know how to write. You can write, right? That's yeah, good. I'm glad you're here. Now, certainly I'm going to try to help you write a little bit better, maybe write differently, and sometimes you will like it and sometimes you won't. But the analysis outline and the checklist that comes afterwards, it's just something for you to use that might be helpful to make sure you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's. You don't have to use this, but I recommend it early on just so you are familiar with it. I inadvertently skipped over my favorite page and your least favorite page. Dead words. Yes. Dead words bring joy to my life because I like seeing them gone, eliminated. Noah has confirmed that he knows how to write. Yes. Sometimes, though, I think people fall into traps of using certain words or phrases too often. And it's not because you don't know other words or phrases, but you're just so used to using them, it's almost out of habit. Many of you will probably agree that your last paragraph almost always starts off in conclusion. You can do better than that. Some of you like Charles Dickens so much that you just start changing your standard American English to British English, and I really don't know why. Others of you just use words that I absolutely detest, 33 being very high on that list. Some of you just use words incorrectly. I don't have a problem with the word quote. I have a problem when you use the word quote, which is a verb, as a noun. In the following quote, Steinbeck explains, now it's a quotation, it's a passage, it's an excerpt. So I want to just make sure that you're being not overly particular, but you have a purpose with the words that you are using. Now, the one up here that probably causes people the most anxiety is not us. Noah.
I wasn't ready.
Okay. It's the to be verbs, the linking verbs, the is, the was, the were. I don't like them a lot. Sometimes that you do need to use them. And all of these words you still might use, except show, from time to time. But you have to have a purpose with it. Generally, people use these words when some other verb would be a little bit more precise. Also, you have a thing called an AP exam, like at the end of the year. You have to write 3 essays in 2 hours. These take time. They make sentences longer. So I want you to get in the habit of shortening sentences so that you cover what you need to cover, and that gives you time to, guess what? Write more sentences. So it might only save you 2 or 3 sentences, but those could be very important sentences within that particular essay. So this will take a little while to get used to. Now, this does not apply to your rough drafts. I don't want anyone fretting for hours upon hours about their rough draft. This is stuff you'll take care of before you do final copies. When we peer edit, we'll talk about it. When you've written a rough draft, and now you know which one of those are causing you difficulty, what will you do? I have this sentence, it has the word is, and I cannot figure out for the life of me how to get rid of it. Then we'll go over the sentence. Okay. So the whole, it's not meant to cause you more stress because it's your junior year. Some of you are taking like 4 AP classes. One AP class causes enough stress as it is. It's not meant to add more stress, but I want you to be more cognizant, aware of what you're doing with the writing. Okay. Any questions about anything thus far? Mentioned then to you, down at the bottom you have the literary terms and whatnot. Don't worry about those things yet. We'll handle that when we get close to it, to that time. All right. Now, just to make sure we are all on the same page for your weekly syllabus for tomorrow, I do want you to take a look at that prompt, which is in your course syllabus. We now know where it's at on page 6. So you're going to take a look at prompt number 1. What's keeping you from being able to write that essay successfully? Again, we're not talking about time, interest, all that stuff, but what would be an issue for you, whether it be the rhetorical devices, I don't know how long to make this essay, how much detail do you want, all that kind of stuff. Tomorrow, we'll probably be covering more of what the requirements are, and then as we read and look at chapter 5 on Wednesday and Thursday, the hope is you can then see what happens in that small chapter and be able to apply it on a greater scale to the rest of the book and being able to come up with that essay. The good news is prompt number 1 and 2 are very similar in what you have to do. So the things that you do for the first prompt, you're not going to use the same essay by any means, but it will carry over to what's going on in the second one, so there should be less confusion. Wednesday, remember you're going to have the quiz for chapter 5, and then on Friday will be the I Have a Dream speech. You're going to feel a little frazzled first couple weeks. I can't make that feeling go away, but the good news is the way it is during week 1, 2, 3, 4, that's the way it is all year long. So it's not that there's an adjustment period and then we really, ratchet up another level. This is what we do. There's going to be some highs and lows, but I think we'll be okay. If you have your student info sheet, I'll grab it from you. So Bedford Reader, I don't need to see until Friday, but if you didn't have Grapes of Wrath with you today, please make sure you bring it for tomorrow.